Every Friday from 3:05 to 4 on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM. It's the Friday Sports Scene with Keith and Koivisto. Talking local sports every Friday. Getting you ready for the weekend and what lies ahead. High school sports, UConn, ECSU, and more. The Friday Sports Scene with Keith and Koivisto is brought to you by your local Dunkin' stores. Route 32 South Windham, 1015 Main Street, Willimantic, 1575 West Main Street, and 407 Jackson Street. The Friday Sports Scene. Now, here's Keith C. Rice and Jan Koivisto.
Here we go. Show number 2. Keith and Koivisto on this Halloween 2025. Welcome to the Friday Sports Scene for October the 31st. One show in the books, and here we go with show number 2. Of course, brought to you by, big thanks, first of all, to one of the best voiceover guys in the country, a little biased, my good friend Eddie Bishop, for that wonderful intro. Thank you, Eddie B. And, of course, big thanks to our local Dunkin' stores, Jerry Jose and the Jose family, sponsoring the Friday Sports Scene with Keith and Koivisto here on 14 WILI 95.3 FM. And the WILI Radio YouTube channel. Not only can you listen to the show live every Friday here on WILI, but you can go back and view it next week by searching WILI Radio on the YouTube channel, and you can watch all our great talk programs up there. So again, big thanks to our local Dunkin' stores. They have a great fall menu, how about the new Chipotle loaded hash browns? Oh, I love those. Mixed berry daydream refresher. Bacon processes. We think that's how it's pronounced.
Sounds right.
Is that right, Matt? It's spelled process. I was asking Jay before the show. It's spelled processes. So anyway, you had me at bacon. Of course, a lot of Halloween stuff. Dunkin' is always very creative with their menu, so make sure you check out their Fall 25 menu. And new stuff on the way. I got to check it with Jerry. He'll send us the new stuff on the menu coming up as we get into the month of November. Hard to believe tomorrow's November 1st. And away we go. Lots to get to. And we'll start off by getting you up to date in the world of sports. Of course, we keep it local, touch a little on the national stuff as we get towards the end of the show. The 1-5 Wyndham Whips, kind of like a down year for our Whips, but they're back in action tonight, hosting New London at 6:30, right up the street. Bacon Lyman played last night. They they beat Stonington 8-6, kind of like a World Series score, right? E.O. Smith home for Newington tomorrow. That game was supposed to be yesterday, but got postponed. It'll be tomorrow at 2, again up at Stores. And speaking of E.O. Smith, our first guest today will be my good friend Jacob Stearns, who is the linebackers and wide receivers coach for the E.O. Smith Panthers. We'll talk a little E.O. Smith and a little Pleasant Pizza. Congrats to Jacob and his family on the soft opening of Pleasant Pizza in Willimantic. So we'll talk a little football and pizza, which sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good to me, right, Jan?
All sounds good.
Pizza and football goes hand in hand.
Maybe a couple of beers to go with it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. We got this Dunkin' cup here. No, I'm kidding. Boys State Tournament Soccer. Wyndham Tech is playing as we speak against Killingley right up the street at Eastern. That was a 2:30 start. E.O. Smith is at top seed East Lyme. Coventry at St. Bernard. Lyman at St. Paul. Girls Tournament Soccer. Wyndham's at East Hampton. E.O. Smith at Rockville. Parish Hill at St. Bernard. UConn men's hockey against Harvard tonight on WILI. We got the game for you starting at 7. UConn football now 5-3. What a tough loss last week down in Houston to the Rice Owls, losing in double overtime 37-34. Wayno was there. He'll be joining us at 3:35, so he'll break that down, and we'll get ready for UConn UAB tomorrow morning at 10:30 on WILI. Fourth-ranked UConn men's basketball team opens up against New Haven Monday night in Stores. Top-ranked UConn women start the season. They were supposed to be in Germany, but that game got moved to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. So UConn will play 20th-ranked Louisville at 5. Louisville! You can say Louisville, but I think it's Louisville. Anyway, what do you say?
I still see Denny Crum on the sideline when I hear Louisville. So
Nervous Purvis, Ellison?
Yeah, there's some great teams back then.
Well, Louisville women are pretty good, too. The Louisville women are 20th in the country, and that'll be a 5:30 tap on Tuesday. So a little programming, no hometown threads this week because of UConn women's basketball. ECSU men's soccer hosting UMass Dartmouth tomorrow at 3:30 in Mansfield. Little East Conference playoffs. Warriors are 8-7-1 on the season. Eastern women are 10-4-3. They'll play Wednesday in the Little East Soccer semis. Opponent to be determined. That game will also be in Mansfield. On the national scene, close to home now, Celtics in Philly tonight. They've kind of got back on the winning track there after a 0-3 start. World Series Game 6, I think a week ago today I was saying Jays in 6, and it's looking pretty good for me tonight. We'll see. They look to close the door on the Dodgers, but they got to face Yamamoto, who's been on fire in the postseason. Pats host the Falcons on Sunday. Giants with some key tough luck injuries. Their season appears possibly over. And the Jets season never got started, although they pulled out like a miraculous first win against Cincinnati last week. And ironically, and sadly, on the same day they lost that legend Nick Mangold at the age of 41. So, the Pats, I'm a Pats fan, but it was a much-needed win for the Jets, and it was a very sad story, but it's weird how things work,
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. So, and a great comeback by the Jets.
Yes. Welcome in my co-host, Jan Koivisto. Are you ready for show number 2, my friend?
I am ready. I thought we did okay. I was telling you before, I talked to a couple buddies. They graded me, so gave me a couple pointers. But overall, they said we did well, so I'll take it.
Jan Koivisto from the Chronicle, of course, and big thanks to the Chronicle for doing a great job with the mayoral debate. It was great to team up with you guys back on Wednesday night over at the Wyndham Community Senior Center. But let's get into a few things. I know there's, first of all, the Coventry girls volleyball team. You want to bring them up?
So, right? We mentioned last week, I think, it's been a little struggle for some of our local football teams, but we got a couple of girls volleyball teams that probably favored to win the state tournament. Coventry last night finished off. I was talking to the Chronicle sports reporter, Johnny Euricchio.
Johnny
I think I got that right.
Johnny U.
The true Johnny U, right?
The true Johnny U. I love it.
But so they won their league title last night. They go into Class S as the 1 seed, and then also Ram girls volleyball. They lost in their league tournament, but their only losses are to Class LL teams.
Okay.
So they go in as the number 1 seed in the M.
Yeah, we were talking about how historically Coventry, Ram, and I think even Lyman have all had great girls volleyball teams, right? I know Lyman is in the thick of this year, but...
Well, I think it's, I think volleyball for girls versus the boys, I don't even know if all of our teams have boys volleyball, but the best girl athletes play volleyball. That's kind of the sport, right? Or I guess soccer, but it depends the school. Where I think, we said we might get into this with E.O. Smith a little bit. I think boys, sometime the soccer and football kind of go against each other a little bit with some of the better athletes.
So just another thing Jan and I wanted to talk about is that we don't call and coordinate our outfits each Friday. But I decided to leave. I'm leaving the house. I'm like, I'm going to grab my Pats hat. They're on fire right now. I'm feeling pretty good about life and Drake May. And I see Jan walk in here about 2:30. He's wearing his Ravens sweatshirt. So,
I was supporting them at 1-5 because the division I think stinks. I don't buy the Steelers. I think it could be an 8-9 division winner, but probably more likely 9 or 10, and I think the Ravens can get to that. Ravens are favored to win the division still. At 3-5, they're minus 145 to win the division.
Doesn't surprise me. I may put some money on that later because I know you played a bad Dolphins team, which I can't believe Mike McDaniel still has a job. That's a whole other story.
He looked lost. They showed him on the sidelines, and it's like, listen, a 4th and 1 or some of these plays, the team has to make those plays, but it just... He doesn't give an air of confidence on the sideline.
Yeah, he's been a dead man walking for quite some time. Maybe they're going to let him finish out the season. I don't know. But anyway, I was doing Trolley Pub Trivia last night. We had the game on. I really wasn't following that closely, but the Ravens just looked so good. And Lamar, and you could tell he's out to win that division. I mean, you said it, and I could see it happening because the division's bad, and you got a great coach, John Harbaugh. I mean, real quick, your history of becoming a Ravens fan, because we were going to get into this. You hate the Pats.
Hate the Pats.
Tell me about hating the Pats and how you're a Ravens fan.
Well, they go a little hand in hand. So growing up, I don't remember not loving baseball. I think I was 2 or 3, and I loved baseball. My dad was a Sox fan. No other sport. So a lot of times you go with what your father goes with, and I didn't realize you're supposed to pick your local team. So my brother back then was a Houston Oilers fan.
Houston Oilers.
So to be different than him, I picked the Browns. I remember a game mid-'70s, early '70s. Greg Pruitt they used to allow the rip-away jerseys, and he ran for 150 yards, jerseys ripping all over the place. So I picked the Browns.
Remember Ernest Biner?
Yeah, well, that was a little later. That was
the fumble, the famous fumble.
Yeah, that was in the early '80s.
Were you a Browns fan then? The fumble in Denver?
Yeah. Well, I was a Browns fan when they moved to Baltimore. I just became a Raven fan. I had no, if you were in Cleveland, you had a connection to the Cleveland Browns. I had a connection to the Browns.
So the Browns going to Baltimore. You just
jumped with them. Ray Lewis was my favorite.
A lot of people
player.
jump ship.
I think the locals jump ship. I think if you were a national Brown fan, you probably just went with them. So I went with the Ravens. So my Pat hatred comes from, and anybody my age, I'm going to be 59 next week.
Don't say Hartford, please. Don't go there.
Nope. I'm going to go to that. Kids my age in the mid 70s were not Pats fans. Pats stunk. They were blacked out on a lot of games, so you couldn't even watch them locally. And kids my age were every fan but Pat fans. Then all of a sudden, Tom Brady comes along, and guys my age are Pat fans.
Now, last week you tried to test me.
I tried to test you.
You tried to test me, and I said, no, I was there for the 2-14 seasons. Well, I lived through the Steve Grogan struggle years. I was there through thick and thin. I'm not one of those people you're stereotyping.
Yeah, my question to Pat fans, when I really want to just be a little bit of an idiot to people, is the two linemen held out in the mid-70s. Who were the two linemen? And you got one of them.
John Hanna?
But you were also Leon Gray. Okay. Leon Gray. And that was kind of like...
I was there for Mosi Tatupu. I was there for...
There you go.
Tony Collins, I can go right back.
There's some of them, but most guys my age growing up in the 70s were Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Miami Dolphin fan, Dallas Cowboy fans. So don't get me started on the Cowboys. They may be my second most hated.
They have the longest drought. And who would have thought in 2025 the Dallas Cowboys would have the longest drought? I think I'm probably going to screw this up. The longest drought in the NFC of reaching the Super Bowl. I think that's right.
I don't know.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's right.
Nobody jumps out at the top of my head.
Do you believe it's been that long? It's been like 3 decades since the Cowboys.
It's with the owner, right? It all starts with the owner.
Did you watch that documentary, by the way, the Cowboys Jerry Jones thing?
What's that?
Did you watch the Cowboys documentary?
No, I will get to it. I had a Cowboy friend watch it. He said it was okay. But yeah, I'll get around to it. I'm just like the cousin last week mentioned who killed the Expos. I'm going to get around to that too.
Okay, so we're waiting on Jacob Stern still? Okay, that's fine. We're killing a little time here with talking football. But, yeah, I mean, so I really thought you were going to go down the Hartford way because that's how Wayne is. And Wayne will be joining us. We'll get into that. He pretty much voices, he makes his voice heard about his, and a lot of people, I've run into a lot of people who are, that really rubs people the wrong way. Yeah. They think Kraft really jerked around Connecticut. Maybe he did.
I think
he did. It's a business decision.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't hold it against Tom Brady and Randy Moss or whoever else. I mean, I was always a Pats fan. Now, I was working in Hartford at a radio station at TIC when all that was going on. I was following it so closely. It didn't hurt my feelings when the last second Kraft pulled out.
No,
I'm not going to, I said I'm dumping the Pats.
Well, that's the Browns-Ravens thing, too, a little bit. Art Modell played in a horrible stadium in Cleveland. They built the Indians a new stadium. They built the Cavs a new stadium. And he was looking for some money for a stadium. They didn't want to give it. He said, okay, I'm going to Baltimore. Yeah. So, I mean, I do think owners have to be, well, they should be selfish, right? I mean, it's their business. And that selfishness, I think, can lead to good product on the field, too. So,
look, I'm not a big fan of what Kraft's done over the past few years. I mean, the Pats have been awful until this year. And I just think they've tanked in some way. And as a diehard Pats fan, you shouldn't have to rely on sucking to get a great draft. I feel like I hope the Celtics don't do that either because the Celtics do have Tatum coming back. They have a good team, but it's almost like they're not trying because they want to suck and get a better draft pick. That drives me nuts.
Well, I thought that it's funny because I texted you earlier in the week. Maybe we'll talk about the Celtics struggles a little bit, but that win, even though it was at home against Cleveland, I think they showed some life. I'm a huge Jaylen Brown fan. I always have been. His second year, I was kind of predicting to be a top 20 player in the league, and I think he is that now. But you do see that he's Robin. He can't be Batman, it seems, because I don't like his playmaking.
We're seeing that right now because I think it's almost like he's a little gun shy without Tatum. And I was hoping as an NBA Finals MVP and a conference Finals MVP,
both that year,
you'd think, okay, if I'm Jaylen Brown, this is my turn to shine, my opportunity to lead the way. I'm not saying he hit a great game against Cleveland the other night. Not to pivot here for a second, but this is a whole NBA thing, not just a Celtic thing. What do you think this chucking and ducking thing? Now, you and I grew up in the glory days with the Celtics, and the NBA today is a whole other story.
Yeah.
We can go back to the Celtics, but I am so turned off, and I'm a big hoops fan. I can't sit there and watch 3 after 3. It's like, this is so boring.
I'm a proponent, and I really was when it first started, pretty quickly, of taking a lot of threes. That said, they could probably take 8 or 9 less a game and they'd be more effective. But you do, that 15 to 20, what's the NBA line is probably 22 feet. That 15 to 22 foot range is not a good place to take shots because it's almost not worth it. So I think that's what we've seen the game kind of evolve too. And I don't think it's going to go back unless they change some of the 3-point line rules. Like, I don't know if you've heard some of the ideas, but some were saying have a straight line up top, no more corner threes. That, I think, is the only way to change it now because you have to take them. They're hitting, the better teams hit close to 40% now. You just got to do it. But it is hard to watch. I do agree with that.
It is.
But I think it's the right way to play.
You pull up these Larry Bird videos on YouTube, and I grew up in the Bird era.
They wanted 15 and in.
And it was beautiful. It was like art.
Yeah.
And now you're watching and no disrespect to the athletes these days because they're tremendous athletes in great condition. But jacking 3 after 3 is I'm sorry, is very boring to me.
It does get hard to watch, but unless there's rule changes, I don't think anything's going to change. I think it's the way.
And that's the Celtics way. That's the way they want to play.
Well, they're the leaders of it now.
Exactly,
they take the most.
Now it worked in 24, but here in early 2025. The Eastern Conference isn't that good. Like they played a Cleveland team that can't get out of their own way. They, no matter how talented they are. I'll take Tatum coming back like around Easter or whatever. Have the Celtics be like a 5 seed,
4 or 5 seed.
Go on the road. They'll beat Cleveland in a 7-game series. I have total faith in that.
I think if Tatum comes back, they're still got to figure out the big situation. And I actually like what Mazzulla's doing because he's had different starting lineups. He's had different rotations. Might as well do that the first 15, 20 games to figure it out a little bit.
They are missing some of the big guys like Cornette and Porzingis.
But you're right. When Tatum comes back, if they can be around 500, Tatum comes back and then go win your 45 games, they can make a run.
And I think I'm not saying, of course, all the NBA does this. They take nights off, which is another thing. Well, you could go down several roads with that. You can name a bunch of players that. Tatum's not one of those guys. He
wants to play.
Tatum has been busting his butt ever since he ripped his Achilles to get back, and I got to give him credit for that.
I think JB is too. I think both of the stars are. Now, they've both had some injuries. JB's had some nagging ones at times, but I think they both want to play. They both want to be out there. Derek White too.
Derek White.
So, I mean,
it doesn't really equate to the Celtics, but there are a lot of NBA players. I'll name one right now. Kawhi Leonard. They like to take nights off. What is the deal with that? If I'm a paying fan and I want to see Kawhi Leonard, how many nights off is he taking?
Well, you're right. You mentioned Larry Bird. That didn't happen. Never happened back in the day. Not just Bird, even through the Jordan area. Those guys played 82. Even the end of the season, like you can see maybe a game off at the end of the season when you're kind of setting your seed. But I don't remember him even doing that back in those days.
Unbelievable. Do you remember have you seen this? I meant to ask you. Have you watched any of the NBA on NBC has returned? They have the '90s theme going again.
No, I've only watched the Celtics a couple times. Right. I haven't really watched much of that.
I didn't watch the opening night, but they brought back the NBA and NBC theme from the '90s. They have a sit down with Michael Jordan every week, which I want to go back to YouTube and watch. I hear the Jordan sit downs. Mike Tirico, I love him, but he's got to shut up and let Jordan talk.
Right. Well, that Last Dance was probably the best sports show I've ever seen, and
and we're Celtics fans.
Yeah, right. That was so well done and such a great 4 parts, I forget now, but that was probably the best I've ever seen for a sports documentary.
All right, well, we're waiting on Jacob Stearns. It's a big day for the Stearns family and Pleasant Pizza in Willimantic opening up, the soft opening. Big shout out to the Stearns family. So
great to have him back.
Yes,
great
it really is. And the Provisalis family held it down there for a long period of time. So the Stearns family. Pleasant Pizza, the Stearns family carrying the torch, or just taking the torch, and looking forward to getting on over there and checking that place out. So we'll give Jacob a pass if he's not able to call us this afternoon. We do have Wayno coming up at 3:35 to talk UConn football, maybe even touch briefly on a little UConn men and women's basketball. Where would you like to go here now, Jan? We have a break coming up in 5 minutes. You want to do World Series?
Sure, you can rub it in a little bit. I picked a 5-game series.
Look, I know. Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't say rub it in because we're literally about to sign off, and I gave my pick literally within I just spitballed, as I like to say. I'll take Jays in 6 because I knew my cousin who called in, Andy Bach, last week, said Jays in 7.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. It was a good pick, but I didn't want to copy him, so I went on a further ledge and said, all right, Toronto in 6, which could happen tonight. But as you and I discussed off the air, Yamamoto going for the Dodgers, and he's been lights out in the postseason.
It is. Baseball is such a strange sport that it seems the team has, like the Dodgers look like a juggernaut to me, and I've seen it enough times that I shouldn't have been as confident in my pick, but they just look like they were really clicking, and it's so weird. And even up 2-1, that they lost the first game, I thought maybe the layoff would hurt them, so I wasn't surprised by that. But up 2-1, I was thinking, hey, it's over. They're going to win in 5, and then we talked about it. Guerrero just goes nuts.
Yep.
And they can't get him out.
Guerrero and Ohtani are must-see players in the postseason, and I wish I had more time to actually sit down and watch them. But
well, it's tough too. I mean, are you watching the game that ends at almost 3 o'clock in the morning?
I didn't make it. Obviously, how far did you get with the 18-inning affair?
I watched 6. Maybe
yeah.
I wasn't. I can't even stick out.
Yeah.
I can't even stick out 9 because you're still talking close to midnight, right?
I passed out in the 8th inning, and I woke up once to see it was still going in the 13th. And then, I saw it when my alarm went off. Let's see, I wasn't on doing the news yet. I wasn't up getting up at 3:30. That started Thursday morning. I saw that it went 18 innings. I'm like, oh my god! So
you got to be a true fan of one of those teams to stay up. It would have been hard for me to make it for the Sox. I do remember the 18 inning
I was about to ask
Dodger
you,
game, and
I
did
stayed
stay up for that.
Barely, I made it. And
I did,
and I'm a Red
barely.
Sox fan.
So that one I made, but
Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah, they lost the game, and I actually think that won him the series.
Yes.
He went, 7 or 8 innings?
He was nails. He was unbelievable.
I think that saved their pitching, and I think that loss won him the series.
Yep,
That was a toss-up to me.
Yes.
That was a toss-up to me.
And that was the only game the Dodgers won that World Series. We all know the Red Sox were a juggernaut that year.
They were, yeah.
Say what you want about the cheating accusations, which kind of followed Cora from Houston.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, say what you want, what he did in Houston, not to go down that road, but the 2018 Red Sox were 119-57 on the year. That was an incredible lineup. The pitching was solid. They had Sale. They had Eovaldi. I'm missing a couple of people.
Yeah, I'm sure
that team was just unbelievable.
They blend together a little bit for me. I was actually reading an article the other day about how someone was saying the 1986 Sox losing made 2004 so much more special, and that's very, very true. As much as I was in college at the time, as brutal as that was, 2004 wouldn't have had nearly the same impact because the subsequent World Series didn't have the same impact as 2004.
I don't know how you feel the same way I do, Jam, but I will tell you this. I can watch. I was only 6 years old in '78. I can watch the Bucky Dent thing. I can watch Aaron Boone. I can watch '86. Wait, did I say it? Yeah, I can watch '78. I can watch '86. I can watch '03 with no problem. Want to know why? Not just because of 2004. That's a big part. 2007, 2013, 2018. If they didn't win as many times they did, even after they won 04 the way they did, okay, I still would have been happy. But I have no problem pulling up those old memories.
Yeah,
it doesn't bother me
point.
at all.
That's a good point. If it was just one and done, maybe there's still
it would have bugged me a little, yeah.
Yeah, I have no angst over that anymore.
The Red Sox have more World Series this century than the Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember 2009. That's 2009.
4-1, isn't it? Yankees got one, right?
Yeah,
one win
over a decade ago. And they just finally got back to a World Series last year. I will say this though, Brian Cashman. Look, I never really give the Yankees compliments. Cashman he's had his downfalls, but he's not a bad GM.
I'm not sure about Aaron Boone though, and that they stick with him. And I get that they went to the World Series just the previous season, but they're supposed to go to the World Series. I mean, baseball, unlike other sports, does have that unfair payroll advantage that the Sox benefit from too. The Yankees do. The Mets do, and they're a disgrace. So that may be. I mean, the Jets are so bad too. But my worst run sports franchise right now is the Mets because they have that money advantage, and they seem to always just end up blowing it.
All right, we're going to touch on football for 1 quick minute, and then we'll take a break, and when we come back, it's Wayno at 3:35 here on the second ever Friday Sports Team with Keith and Koivisto. One quick little football note. Let's just do our quick picks here. I had, let's see, Steve. We'll get to Steve in a second. I had Pats minus 5.5, keeping the streak going against Atlanta. I had 3 touchdown passes from May. Steve has the Broncos minus 1.5 against, who are they playing again this week?
You had them last week against the Giants. I don't have the schedule up.
Anyway, he's got Broncos minus. It'll come to me. Oh, not Carolina. Anyway, do your quick pick.
My pick this week is Indy. Daniel Jones is just, for whatever reason, is good now. And Jonathan Taylor's a stud, so I'm taking Indy to win by 3 over The Steelers?
Yeah, Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers.
Who would have thought? We'd be saying Daniel Jones and Drake May are in the MVP
Crazy.
conversation. I remember now, Broncos -1.5 over the Houston Texans. He has them winning like 35-31. So, you guys have been doing all right. I'm like 4-3 in my quick
No,
picks.
you're 5-3
5-3,
with 7-1. I mean, 5-3, is good.
Yes.
You'd be plus money if we were gambling. Can I give you a bonus pick this week?
Sure, yeah. What do you got?
Breeders' Cup is this week. I don't know if you're a horse guy. Probably not, but the Breeders' Cup Classic this week. So I'm going to give everybody, it's race 9 at Del Mar tomorrow. I'm giving you Forever Young, the 5-horse in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Are you a Rod Stewart fan, too? Forever Young.
Oh, yeah. No, well, that's probably with the name. It's a Japanese horse, though. So I'm picking against the favorites. He should be probably 4th choice. So
wow, you're a big horse guy, huh?
Not big, but Breeders' Cup is it actually starts today. There's some of the races today. It's if you don't know, you don't really know, but it's like about 12 races, I think, and the best horses in the world all come in. It's better than Kentucky Derby. It's because there's so many more races, and it's nonstop action.
And they'll start calling you Jan Francesa.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
There you go. Yeah, they used to. I don't know if you remember, but I missed it. They used to get
Jody
a money
Mack at the
donation, and he was betting $20,000 on it, lose half of it, and then the rest was donated to charity.
Man. All right, we're gonna step away for a quick break. Wayne Norman on the other side, talk a little UConn football to get ready for the Huskies and the UAB Blazers tomorrow morning at 10:30 on WILI. It's the Friday Sports Team with Keith and Koivisto. We're back in a few. Back here on the Friday Sports Team with Keith and Koivisto on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM. We come to you live, and you can also go back and view it next week on the WILI Radio YouTube channel. Just search WILI Radio on YouTube, and you can go back and watch the Friday Sports Team with Keith and Koivisto. Big thanks to our local Dunkin' stores. And before we get to Wayno, who's on hold, shout out to our buddy Ray Aramini, who's they're currently on their way to Base College to play them tomorrow for the semifinals of New England at 4:30. So best of luck to Coach Ray Aramini and ECSU Rugby. I'm going to give them a little shout and best of luck. And we ready to bring in Wayno?
Sure.
We got the big guy on here, ready to talk a little UConn football. Wayno, Jan and Keith here. Thanks for a few minutes.
Hello, boys.
Hey, Wayno.
So, how was Houston last week? Not that great of a performance. Jan and I both missed the game, but we saw the score later. And tough way to snap a winning streak there, 37-34 in double overtime. What exactly happened, if you could relive it for us?
Well, aside from the fact they played the fourth quarter in overtime with lightning on the horizon, I thought they were going to call a game or at least suspend it for a while, but they didn't. But the big thing people have been talking about is why didn't UConn go for a 2-point conversion rather than kick the PAT? And Coach Mora basically said if he had to do it again, he'd do the same thing. So he felt that they had the ability to stop them, which really wasn't the way the game played out. Rice's offense moved down the field pretty well, and they're a team that passes the ball a lot, doesn't run much. They run for 91 yards a game. They ran for 191 against UConn. About 80 came on one play, by the way. But they really weren't stopping them. So some people are thinking that maybe going for 2 in that situation gives them a chance to win the game right there and not prolong it with a second overtime period. But the defense had a hard time, especially defending the pass against that offensive unit from Rice. But on the other hand, UConn's offense has been really good this year. Starting with Joe Fagnano, who has no interceptions after 8 games. The team as a whole has a total of 1 fumble. That's amazing that there's only 1 turnover through 8 games. I've never seen a UConn team, or for that matter, any other team, do that. And I think the defense has been pretty good over the course of the year. They're under 400 yards allowed per game, and UConn offensively is putting up 466 per game. So, but I think one of the keys to this game against UAB tomorrow is going to be the ability of Joe Fagnano to stay upright, look downfield, and pass. They're averaging over 300 yards a game in the air, and this defense for UAB only has 10 sacks in their 7 games coming in. Wow. So they don't get much pressure on the quarterback. We've seen this year that if you leave Fagnano alone, if you keep him vertical, he's going to beat you down the field, especially with guys like Skylar Bell.
So I think that 2 versus 1 thing is always a discussion. If you go for 2 and you miss it, he's going to get asked questions. You go for the PAT and you miss it. You make it, and then you lose in overtime. You're going to get the questions asked. So to me, that's always Monday morning quarterbacking. So I was going to ask you about Skylar Bell a little bit. I guess I was reading they think he may be as high as a third-round pick this year. Is there a way? I mean, I guess he gets the ball so much, but is there a way to get him the ball even some more?
Well, he's got 66 catches in 8 games. That's a lot. He's had a couple of games where he's had 10-plus catches. I think also that the defensive attention that he brings opens other receivers on the field. And one guy that's been a really nice surprise that nobody saw this coming was the former walk-on, former 2-time state player of the year, John Nider, who's now a sophomore from Jonathan Law in Milford. And he was not going to get much playing time entering the season, but he's been so good in practice, he's earned reps in real games. He's had some big catches for UConn, including a touchdown last week, I think it was. And I think some of that is because of the attention that Skylar Bell draws on defense. But Bell has been remarkable. You know, I've seen UConn football now for over 50 years, and he's on the short list of the best receivers I've ever seen at UConn. There's some great ones over the years, but Bell is so good. And one thing that Bell does that makes him so good, they mostly run short stuff for him. You see that he's averaging 106 yards per game, and you go, oh, they must throw deep. Well, Fignano doesn't throw deep a lot. Once in a while, he'll air it out. But what he does so well is they'll run little short slants, little in patterns, and he has the ability to get yards after the catch. 2 games ago, he had 100, ballpark figure here, he had like 120 receiving yards. 95 of those yards came after the catch. That's what he does so well, his ability to stay vertical, to break tackles. And I thought that the classic example of that was that decisive touchdown late in the game at BC 2 weeks ago, where 2 defenders were right there to bring him down, and he was able to break those tackles and go down the left sideline for what turned out to be the game, the touchdown that put that game away.
Wayno, 8 games in, what surprises you most? That the fact that they're first of all, are you a little surprised that they're 5-3? Did you expect the somewhat lengthy winning streak? I'll start there, and I got a couple other questions.
Well, I'll keep it short and just say basically that for the most part this year and last year, they're not playing the toughest schedule on the planet. You know, UAB comes in 3-4, even though their last game they knocked off the number 22 team in the country, Memphis. But I think that some of these better teams on the schedule, you got a chance to beat. You got to finish the job. Syracuse would be one of those. They led 17-6 in the fourth quarter. They lost that game in overtime. You can't be losing overtime or regulation to Delaware, a team that was we used to call it 1AA, now it's FCS team, and clearly that game at Rice last week was a winnable game. You know, you could make an argument that this team is a couple of plays away from being 8-0.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, after that tough loss last week, you can't be losing this game tomorrow. This is a winnable game tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought the Delaware game. That had to be a wake-up call there. How about Fignano? Did you expect the 0 interceptions? And then,
stats.
Yeah, that's. Did you expect that out of Fignano? And then the turnover thing with UConn, the UConn defense. I think they're up there with Temple with the least turnovers in the NCAA. Talk a little about that.
Well, as far as Fignano is concerned, this is the 7th year of college football.
Oh, right.
He played at Maine, comes on to play at UConn, was injured a couple of years ago, and he knows the system. And Mora has put some good receivers out there for him, especially using the transfer portal. Skylar Bell, a transfer from Wisconsin, with some other transfers. Romello Murphy is their second-leading receiver. He's a transfer from Arizona. So he's got some guys he can throw it to. I think the thing that surprised me a little bit is that they lost a couple of guys in the NFL on the offensive line last year. And they had to rework that line. Some of the guys were subs last year, now they're starters. And they brought in guys like Ty Chance from Notre Dame. That line is held up. And the fact that Fignano's only been sacked 8 times gives him time to throw, and that's one reason why he's been so effective this year.
Well, I kind of laughed when you said it was Fignano's seventh year. I don't know if you guys saw that Tom Izzo kind of going off on these older guys playing basketball, but football, I think it's even more true because I think Bell is either 23 or 24 too. So I think we're seeing just a lot of that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Fignano, 7 years. I totally forgot about that.
It happens all the time. And a lot of them come in older because they're prepping for a year or doing whatever, or the reclassification. So some of them are coming in as 19, 20-year-old freshmen where it used to be 18. I was going to ask you a little bit more big picture.
Well, I don't have the name off the top of my head, but there's a guy right now on some school in his 9th year.
What?
Come on. Back in the day, everybody got an extra year because of COVID.
Yep.
Then you got various things as far as injuries and red shirts and things like that. So Fagnano's 7 is chump change to 9.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty funny. I was going to ask you a bigger picture question because I know that that their NIL money went up a little bit, but how does UConn football specifically able to get the next step and get that NIL money up a little bit more towards the big boy level?
Well, and the NIL money goes to just about every sport, not just football. But Coach Moore has said a couple of times he thanks the people who have given the money. Because nowadays, everywhere you go in college athletics, not just college football, the players are getting paid. Boy, that's such a change from just a couple of years ago. I mean, I think that one reason that Paige Becker stuck around for her senior year at UConn was that she was making more money at UConn than she would in the WNBA.
Oh, by a lot,
there's not many players in the WNBA that make that kind of money outside of Caitlin Clark, and now Paige is doing the same thing there. But these kids, and another part of that story, which is really good, is that Bell had a great year last year for UConn. And it was either Michigan or Michigan State. I forget which one it was.
$1 million.
They offered him $500,000 to transfer from UConn to Michigan or Michigan State. He didn't do it. Why? Because he likes UConn and he likes Coach Mora. I think that speaks volumes for the direction the program is headed in.
Yeah, it was Michigan, I think, but I don't know. I had actually heard it was up towards $1 million, but I wonder what UConn gave him because that never got reported. I don't think they got close to Michigan numbers, but I bet you he got a big chunk of that, which he should.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not getting money at UConn. I'm just saying he likes the culture at UConn, which he said is why he came back.
Well, you don't have to sell me on Jim Mora. I don't know if you know Soren Reef, but he's a Killingly kid, and his mother passed of cancer, and Mora got him 2 carries in one of the games. I think it was like a cancer charity game.
Oh,
and
really?
He got him 2 carries. The kid had 9 yards. He's a walk-on too.
Wow.
Yeah, all the players on the team had decals on their helmets to identify a family member or a friend or both who had various forms of cancer, and they had different decals for different kinds of cancer. So because of what happened to Soren's mother, they gave him 2 carries in the game, and he got 9 yards out of the deal. And he didn't expect that. It was a nice surprise from Mora, and I thought that it was a really just such a nice gesture.
Classy.
Now, you mentioned, let's get back to UConn UAB tomorrow. You were talking a little about how critical this game is. Just looking ahead, not to just breezing through the rest of the schedule here. And you're right. They every game is important. But you get to this point in the season, 6 games makes you bowl eligible, correct? Right? That's still they got to beat UAB because then you got Duke waiting at home, and then Air Force, and then you finish out on the road at Florida Atlantic. So, I mean, all 3 of those are probably winnable. But this UAB team, you think it could be a little tricky tomorrow, Wayno, or what?
UAB is crazy because, like I think 8 other programs have done, they fired their coach mid-season. They just didn't like the direction the program's going in. They promoted the...
You're cutting out a little, Wayno. Are you moving around? You're cutting out a little.
I'm just sitting still here. I don't know what the
You're back.
There we go. We got you. All right.
All right. So they promoted the offensive coordinator to the head coach. He made some changes in the starting lineup, not just quarterback, but some other positions too. And they wind up beating number 22 Memphis, which I thought was amazing. Now, they did have a change in the quarterback position, but the reason they did that is because the starting quarterback was banged up in the prior game, Kitna. And so they brought this other kid in, and he was 21 of 28 and didn't make many mistakes. And they had a couple of really big, explosive plays in that game, and they held off and beat Memphis. So, okay, they're 3-4. They were 2-4 before that. And you say to yourself, well, this ought to be a win. But you know what? This team beat a ranked team. That gets my attention right there. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's going to be, I don't expect an easy game tomorrow. And I think UConn's still looking at its wounds. And I think one thing UConn's also got to do is find that running game again. They've got an elite running back in Cam Edwards, but his rushing numbers have been down lately. 2 reasons. I think he got banged up, and I asked him about that on Tuesday, and he didn't say, no, he's not hurt, but he gave the impression, I'm coming out to play. In other words, he's I don't know if he's just hiding something or whether he is okay. The coach says he's okay, but that could also be coach speak. But another reason his numbers are down is because Fagnano's passing numbers are up. And, you do a gotcha there. And if you're moving the ball in the air, you're not going to have to run the ball as much. But I think at some point this year, maybe tomorrow, they've got to get another 100-yard rushing game out of Cam Edwards. He's really good, but his numbers have been down the last couple of games.
All right, before we jump to hoops, did you have another football thing?
Well, I was just going to say, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, that as good as I'm a big Skylar Bell fan, but I do think their defense has improved UConn's, but I think if they could keep their defense off the field a little bit more, that would help, and maybe that is with running the ball.
Well, you look at the three key skill position guys. The quarterback has been playing really well this year. The running back, Edwards, has been really good this year, averaging about 95 yards a game. And then the aforementioned Skylar Bell. That's a pretty good trifecta to move the football.
Before we touch on briefly a little UConn men and women with Wayno here on the Friday Sports Scene, Keith and Koivisto on WILI. Any surprises? What can we expect on the 10:30 pregame show tomorrow morning?
Well, about 10 minutes into it, I'll be talking to Brian Parham. He's another one of the big stories on this UConn team. They lost 9 starters on defense last year, and Parham transferred in from Washington. In other words, he goes from being a Husky to being a Husky. But the fifth-year senior, he gets 1 year at UConn. But, wow, has he been good. He's the leading tackler on the team, one of the top 10 tacklers and sacks guys in the country, also top 10 tackles for loss. And they just turned him loose. UConn's defense has 28 sacks on the year, and he's got about 9 of them coming in. And I think that's pretty important. I bet you're going to get a couple of sacks from him tomorrow. He anchors that defense. He's a leader, and I'll be talking to him on the pregame show about 10:45 or so tomorrow.
All right, looking forward to that. 10:30 pregame for UConn UAB tomorrow morning here on WILI. Let's switch gears. Just touch on hoops briefly here. We'll start with, how about the UConn women? We'll start with the men. They open up Monday against New Haven and Storrs, correct? That's Storrs, not Hartford?
That's Gamble.
Okay.
New Haven playing its first year Division I. They've got 21 guys on the roster. I've never seen that much. I have these pre-made charts I do up, and they've got like 14 or 15 slots for the opponents. I got to do a little Scott's taping because I don't have room for 21 on my list. And I guess they're all healthy. They're not redshirting. They're all playing. But, obviously that's going to be what the coaches call an us game. In other words, it's about how we play. It's getting used to what we do offensively, and it's not so much about worrying about what the other team does. Because I think that's designed to be probably a relatively easy win for UConn, but season opener, and also UConn's minus 2 starters, and they're going to be without those 2 starters for a while now. So it's not, I don't believe, going to be a factor against New Haven on Monday night. Didn't seem to be much of a factor in the 2 exhibition games, BC and Michigan State. But what it's going to come down to it later on, they've got 6 high-quality, good teams and at a span of 8 games coming up. And I'm hoping they get Terrace Reed back from the hamstring injury. I think that's going to be a close call. But I don't think they're going to be getting Braylon Mullins back from the ankle sprain. He's going to be out for at least another month or so. Those 2 guys, big weapons. Reed on the inside, Mullins on the outside.
I'm not sure, maybe I don't remember it right, but it seems a little odd that they did play Michigan State the other day. Is that like a new thing when they do that?
The exhibition with Michigan State, I was thinking the same thing. You rarely see that.
Well, what they used to do the last couple of years, they'd have these, they tongue-in-cheek call them secret scrimmages. They'd play a Harvard. They played a Virginia. Nobody would know about it unless the coach talked about it or somebody said that somebody had 22 points or whatever. I remember one of the national championship years, they had one of those secret scrimmages at Virginia, and they were horrible in the first half. Then they played better in the second half. Well, that team ended up okay. I think that was 2024, and they went on to win the national championship. But I guess the NCAA is now allowing them to play these more high-profile games, and UConn goes to Michigan State for another exhibition game next year. And along the same lines, I thought playing Boston College was a lot better than playing one of these Division II or Division III schools. They often play before live crowds at Gamble or in Hartford.
I hear East Lansing's beautiful this time of year. The Huskies, so the UConn men down a couple starters. It shouldn't really affect them until they get to play some of the big boys. Like you can even put BYU into that picture, and Arizona coming to Gamble, and it's not till December 2nd. But Wayne, I was mentioning this the other day. Another trip out to Lawrence, Kansas, take on the Jayhawks. That was a nice experience a few years ago. Could you briefly describe the Allen Fieldhouse vibe?
Oh, it's what we call in the business a 5-star pit. That's a tough place to win, And UConn played there a couple of years ago. Tristan had 30 points, and they lost by, I think, 3 or 4 points, something like that. I think that was the game Klingon got hurt and was out for 4 or 5 games. Might not have been that game, but nonetheless, I think they were playing without him in that game, and they nearly won. But, Coach Hurley knows he's going to have a good team this year. He's stacked the roster with some transfers, and he wants to be challenged. And I think that'll be maybe the biggest challenge of all when it comes to this upcoming schedule they've got, which is really tough. Now, one thing they've got to do, and they did it in both exhibition games, they got to stop fouling. There just was too many fouls. Now, maybe the officials had a little bit of a ulterior motive there. They want to teach these guys, cut it out with all the contact, back off a little bit, and they called everything. But what it did was, I think it awakened the players and certainly the coaching staff. Dan Hurley said after the game against Michigan State, he says, we're going to have to start calling more fouls in practice because we just can't let this go on. Not only did it break up the entire rhythm of the game, but, they had, I think it was 5 guys had 5 personal fouls in that game. Normally you'd be out, but in this game they allowed them to play till 6 fouls like we did in the Big East about 10 or 15 years ago.
I heard you talking with John Tewitt about that. That was kind of odd, yeah.
The bottom line is that they can't play defense with their hands the way they've been doing. Play defense with your feet, good position, and I think they're better on the perimeter this year defensively. Some of those fouls in previous years have come when opposing guards dribble drive past the guard, and then the bigs have to come over on help defense, and they wind up committing a foul. UConn, of course, has had some elite big men the last couple of years with Klingon, Sanogo, and guys like that. But I think they've got better perimeter defenders this year, especially Smith and Demery. And, I think that's one thing that was vastly overlooked in the 2024 National Championship. We all know what a great player Steph Castle was, but I don't remember seeing a freshman who was such a good perimeter defender that he would lock down his man, they would not get by him. Well, last year, obviously, they didn't have as much trouble with that when he was out there, but I think that's one area they've got to improve on this year without him on the floor.
Well, we would love to do a little more on the UConn women. We just have a couple minutes left here. What can you tell us going into the season? They're supposed to be heading to Germany. That game is going to be played at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis against 20th ranked Louisville. In about 2 minutes, how can you sum up the UConn women heading into this season?
Well, you got Sarah Strong. She's clearly the best player on this team, and maybe even the leader on this team, even though she's not a vocal leader. AZ Fudd, of course, the veteran, leave her open from outside, you'll pay the price for that. I think the addition of Sarah Williams is big. She's like 6'2". She transferred in from Wisconsin, so that gives them some size inside. And Gino's not used to having all these healthy players around. And I think that's one thing that's going to be a real strength of this team this year is their depth. Now, you got to keep Sarah Strong out of foul trouble, but so far she's done a pretty good job of doing that. But I think they're going to have another solid year. Can they win a national championship? I don't know. Get back to me in a month or two, we'll talk. But by the same token, I'm going based on what we've seen so far on the season, and that they haven't really played any real tough teams so far. But that'll change coming up on election night when they take on the Ville. And
real quick, I heard Paige Beckers has something coming out on Netflix. Is that true? Somebody told me that the other day.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah.
I'm not a Netflix subscriber, so I don't hear much about that.
All right. Well, thanks. We did a little football. We got UConn men in there, and we'll spend a little more time on the women as the season goes on. But thank you, and bring us a win against UAB tomorrow.
Thanks, Wayno.
All right, Jen. All right, KCR. Happy Halloween-o.
Yes.
Happy Halloween.
A lot of candy tonight. A lot of candy.
No candy corn, though. All right, thank you, Wayno. All right, so I'll get ready to put wraps here on the second show of the Friday Sports Scene. Keith and Koivisto. We got a couple minutes left. Let's just spend it with the World Series. You want to do that?
Sure, we can get back to that.
Okay,
back to that. I think the Dodgers are going to find a way tonight and then win in 7. But I might be saying that just because I don't want to be wrong and have them lose the series. Because the Blue Jays have just surprised. I think the Dodgers are the better team. I think if they played a 100 game, the Dodgers would win 60, 65. But it's a 7-game series, and the Jays definitely seem to have a little bit of something.
As we near the end of the show, I almost thought I was gonna say I like the Dodgers tonight, but I'm gonna stick with my pick. I know Yamamoto has been lights out. Yeah, I picked Jason 6 this time last week. I might as well just stick with and go with it. You know what this World Series reminds me of? flashing way back to 1990. I was graduating high school at St. Bernard, and the Reds and the A's.
Yeah.
Okay, there were a few World Series like this where the Oakland A's were the dominant team. Everyone thought the A's were going to roll over the Reds. You remember that?
107 wins,
Yeah,
maybe?
and Cincinnati swept them. Now, Toronto's not in the process of sweeping the Dodgers, but everyone had, even though Toronto won more games than anyone in baseball, everyone expected the Dodgers to win.
Well, it's the funny thing with baseball is you can kind of then point back to how they beat them. Like the Reds beat them with the nasty boys. The game was over after 6 innings. I was thinking you might say the Dodgers, when the Dodgers beat the A's, was kind of a similar thing.
That was similar too, where
and
everyone...
was two things, Gibson and then Hershiser was lights out.
It was like you look at these teams that appear as the heavy favorite on paper, like the Dodgers over the Jays. And anyway, I'm sticking with the Jays tonight to... hopefully my pick will come true. Maybe I'll learn next time to lay some money down.
Wow, it's hard.
You're saying Dodgers tonight, right?
I'm going to say Dodgers tonight, but I if I was really picking who's going to win the series, I'd go to the Jays now just because, they got the upper hand and they just all of a sudden it looks different to me. When it was 2-1, I thought I was right, and it just looks different all of a sudden.
Jan, my friend, 2 shows in the books.
There we go.
Two shows
Keep it going.
All right.
Keep it going.
Thanks for checking out the Friday Sports Scene with Keith and Koivisto. Big thanks to our local Dunkin' stores, J. Matt Rupar behind the board, and he's staying right there because Homegrown is coming up next. Enjoy your weekend. Happy Halloween. 14 WILI Willimantic and 95.3 FM.